chapter 9 is entitled Staring Out the Window and There Ain't Nothing Out There. How to deal with market downswings. My grandfather used to always say there's two kinds of loans. There's the kind that pay and the kind that make you stare out the window, and there ain't nothing there. Right now, in our economy, we're seeing a situation where we're staring out the window and there ain't nothing there. There's a lot going on right now in the economy. And in this chapter, I try to help you prepare for times like this. Of course, nobody can see this coming. I mean, this is a once in 100 years pandemic that we're currently in. But through this chapter, I try to help you think through what your risk tolerance is, what it should be, and how that should be reflected in the way that you invest. People who are closer to retirement, people who are in retirement, they shouldn't have as much of their money at risk in stocks. Hopefully they've done a good job investing and done the systematic savings throughout their life, and they have a good, sizable nest egg. And if you have that and you've done that, then you don't have to take the kind of risks that younger people have to take in order to build the kind of wealth they need to have a comfortable retirement. But there's just some things I talk about, and one of the sections is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And again, the point of this section is just to encourage you to be invested appropriately at all times and to stick with the plan. Don't take excessive risks if you don't need to. But it's important for people to understand their risk tolerances and be invested appropriately given where they are, how much money they have, and what their goals are. In this chapter, I'll talk about poker and return variance. It's an important point that a lot of people don't think about a lot of times, because when you think about stock returns, if you look at the long run, there's about a 10% per year average return that you've seen in the stock market, even given the last meltdown that we've seen in the last few months. But you have to realize that there's a lot of variance in that return. So, for instance, last year, the U.S. economy made somewhere around 30%. Well, this year it looks like we may end up losing 30%. And so that's a huge variance swing. And I like the game of poker, and I like to play it. And you can play poker exactly right every time, mathematically. You can play a mathematically sound strategy and still not win because of variance. And when you're investing in the stock market, you need to understand that there is variance. There's a lot of variance. And so from year to year, over a 3-year period, over a 5-year period, sometimes over a 10-year period, one of the things that we talk about in investing is the lost decade. From 2000 to 2000, through the end of 2009, the U.S. stock market made basically zero. The S&P 500 had a very flat return over a 10-year period. And so, that kind of thing can happen, and you need to be aware of that, that there are huge variances that can happen, and be prepared to deal with that. You can do the right thing over and over again, and sometimes it's just not going to work out. But again, in order to build the kind of wealth that you need to have a comfortable retirement, it's important to take some of these risks. But you just need to be careful about the way in which you take them. In the final section of this chapter, it's called When the Mud Hits the Fan. And so then it's, what do you do, right, when the bad stuff happens? Well, it's happening right now, as I've talked about in other videos. So what do you do? Well, I don't think the right thing to do right now is to bail. I don't think the right thing to do right now is to freak out and sell everything, because you've already taken a huge loss. And so what I'm recommending to a lot of clients is, kind of like we talked about in an earlier video, in the video on investment strategies, is to rebalance. And so if your target was 50-50, 50% stocks, 50% fixed income, and now maybe you've only got 35 or 40% of your portfolio is in stocks, and then you've got between 60 and 65% of your portfolio in fixed income, let's sell off some of the fixed income that's done well and put it over into the stock side that hasn't performed as well. And so rebalancing is an important thing. The people who have been brave and courageous in the past in times like this have been rewarded. And I want to see my clients and I want to see my audience do the right thing and be brave, be courageous. I'm not saying double down, triple down, and take all your money you can and put it in the stock market. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that make calculated, consistent moves. Continue to invest. Continue to do what you're doing. If you're contributing to your 401k or whatever, keep doing that. But don't freak out and don't sell all your stocks right now thinking you're going to get in at the bottom, because we don't know when the bottom is. Internalize the risk, because that's an important part of this. In order for us, if we're going to be investing in stocks, if we're going to take that risk, we have to realize that times like this, hopefully not as drastic as this has been, but these kind of things can happen. And so you need to be willing to internalize that risk, take it, face it head on, and go forward knowing that in the long run, these expected returns hopefully will come back. They have every other time. So unless this is a completely different situation, unless the laws of economics and finance and capitalism, don't work anymore, then we have to assume that things are going to be okay. Otherwise, go buy gold, stuff your money in your mattress, and just wait for the sweet meteor of death to come and take us all. But hopefully that's not what we're going to do. And so that's the 9th chapter in the book.